Chosen one. If you are hearing these words, understand one thing very clearly. Not everyone is led to the right message at the right time like you. Even if you haven't yet seen any changes in the outside world, the very fact that you are here is already a movement. There are protections that are silent. There are doors that close before you even realize you were once standing in front of danger. And there are attacks that never reach you, yet quietly turn back toward the place they came from. Do not scroll past, because in this video, we will make clear why the doors that were opened against you do not require you to lift a finger for them to collapse on their own, and why this only happens to those who do not belong to the darkness. Before we go deeper, if you feel that you are not here by accident, leave a simple comment such as, "I have heard," or write the country you are watching from, not to prove anything, but to mark the presence of another chosen one in this moment. And if you want to continue receiving messages meant specifically for those who do not walk with the crowd, please like and subscribe, because what is being revealed today does not stop at one video. Now let's begin. This door we speak of is not a literal physical gateway, nor is it merely a fleeting spell cast in a moment of anger, quickly invoked and just as swiftly forgotten. Instead, this door represents a profound spiritual aperture, painstakingly carved open and diligently maintained by a relentless barrage of negative energies directed squarely at you. It is the cumulative force of repeated jealousy, a corrosive envy that festers into an active desire for your downfall. It is the insidious whisper of slander designed to mar your reputation and erode your peace, circulating with malicious intent. Beyond these, it encompasses a multitude of evil intentions, deliberate thoughts, words and actions steeped in ill will, all aimed at disrupting your life, diminishing your spirit, or hindering your divine path. This is not an isolated incident, but a pattern, a consistent projection of dark desires that through their sheer persistence and intensity create a sustained spiritual vulnerability. The enemy's efforts are not random. They are a calculated, continuous expenditure of negative energy, each hateful thought and jealous glance, hammering another nail into the framework of this spiritual door, intending for it to remain open to inflict harm. Understanding this true nature of the door is the first step in recognizing the profound spiritual battle being waged, and the equally profound divine intervention that is at play on your behalf as the universe itself responds to the relentless assault. In their misguided attempts to harm you, your adversaries have made a critical tactical error. They believed they could reach for darkness without consequence, but in doing so, they stepped into a precarious spiritual no man's land. When the enemy, driven by their relentless malice, endeavors to open this spiritual door to launch an attack against you, they are in a fundamental sense compelled to step out of their own assumed safety zone. This is a crucial spiritual principle often overlooked. The act of projecting harm, of engaging in witchcraft, slander, or any form of dark intention inherently demands a departure from any semblance of divine order or protection they might once have claimed. It is a spiritual law that one cannot dabble in darkness while simultaneously remaining shielded by the light. In their fervent desire to cause you distress or destruction, they have made a grave miscalculation, believing themselves immune to the repercussions of their choices. They mistakenly thought they could orchestrate your downfall from a position of detached impunity. However, the spiritual realm operates with impeccable justice. The moment they initiated this offensive, they involuntarily crossed a threshold, leaving behind any semblance of neutrality or hidden vantage point. Their aggression, far from being a shrewd tactical move, is in fact a strategic blunder that exposes them directly to the very spiritual laws they sought to manipulate. Their perceived safe zone was never truly safe when harboring such darkness, and the act of opening the door to attack, Ju has effectively pulled them out into the open, making them vulnerable in ways they could not foresee. This departure from their supposed sanctuary has immediate and profound consequences. The very act of engaging in such malevolent deeds severs their ties to divine grace and protection. Building upon their critical misstep, the enemy's voluntary departure from their own safety zone precipitates an inevitable and profound loss of divine protection. This is not a punishment arbitrarily inflicted, but rather an inherent consequence of their choices. By deliberately choosing to engage in acts of jealousy, slander, and evil intentions, by actively forging and attempting to hold open a door to spiritual darkness aimed at you, they have consciously and irrevocably stepped out from under God's benevolent covering. Divine protection is not a blanket that shields all regardless of their actions. It is a sacred canopy extended to those who walk in alignment with righteousness, or at the very least, refrain from actively wielding malevolence. When they dip their hands into the murky waters of dark magic and malicious intent, they severed their own connection to the light. They willfully abandoned any residual grace or protective shield they might have possessed, opting instead to immerse themselves fully in the territory of darkness. This was not an accidental straying, but a conscious, deliberate choice to align themselves with forces antithetical to divine order. As such, the spiritual laws dictate that those who choose darkness for their weapons must reside in darkness for their dwelling. Their vulnerability is not a divine punishment, but a direct outcome of their own spiritual alignment, a natural consequence of their decision to forsake the light for the shadows in their misguided quest to harm a chosen one. The universe, in its infinite wisdom and justice, operates on principles of balance and return. No action, especially one imbued with such potent negative energy, can escape the immutable law of reciprocity. The spiritual universe, in its profound and unerring wisdom, is governed by an immutable principle of balance, the profound law of reciprocity. This is not a concept that can be circumvented or outsmarted. It is a foundational truth embedded within the very fabric of existence, mirroring the divine justice that prevails. The ancient scriptures eloquently articulate this principle, particularly in Proverbs chapter 26, verse 27, which declares with unwavering certainty, "Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and he who rolls a stone will have it roll back on him." This is far more than a cautionary proverb. It is a prophetic declaration of an inescapable spiritual consequence. Your adversaries, in their fervent attempts to dig a pit for your downfall, to roll stones of malice and misfortune onto your path, have inadvertently set in motion the very forces that will ultimately ensnare them. Their actions are like boomerangs, launched with destructive intent, only to arc back with unwavering precision to their point of origin. Every ounce of energy invested in creating hardship for you. Every malicious word whispered, every jealous thought harbored, every act of slander enacted becomes a spiritual debt owed, and the universe is a meticulous record keeper. This law ensures that the very mechanisms they devise to harm you will become the instruments of their own unraveling. It is a testament to divine justice, a comforting assurance that no malevolent act against a child of light can ever truly prosper without ultimately recoiling upon its perpetrator, ensuring that the burden they sought to place upon you will ultimately become their own. Expanding on this ancient wisdom, we can understand the law of reciprocity through the lens of spiritual physics. Just as in the physical world, every action in the spiritual realm elicits an equal and opposite reaction. Delving deeper into the foundational principle of reciprocity, we encounter what can only be described as the immutable laws of spiritual physics. This is not merely a philosophical concept, but a tangible mechanism of action and reaction that governs the energetic exchanges within the unseen realms. Just as in the physical universe, where every force applied elicits an opposing and equal force, so too in the spiritual domain, every negative force, every malevolent intention, every dark energy projected inherently creates a counterforce that inevitably rebounds upon its creator. Your enemies, in their misguided attempts to wield spiritual weapons against you, have inadvertently engaged in this fundamental law. They believed they were launching an attack that would travel one way, impacting only you. However, the spiritual fabric of reality is interconnected and self-correcting. The very energy they expelled, charged with jealousy, hatred, and slander, did not dissipate into the void. Instead, it generated a powerful recoil, a spiritual back pressure that now seeks to return to its source. It is an energetic feedback loop, ensuring that the toxicity they intended for you is redirected and amplified back to them. This mechanism is precise and unavoidable. It functions without bias or mercy, ensuring that the negative energies conjured for harm ultimately complete their circuit by returning to the individual who initiated them. This is why attempting to harm a divinely protected individual is not merely a moral failing, but a spiritual impossibility that guarantees the boomerang effect, leaving the aggressor ensnared by their own dark creations, their own destructive intent becoming their undoing. The spiritual physics of reciprocity reveals a profound truth. The very instrument of intended harm becomes a burden to the aggressor. As your enemies stepped out of their safety, they didn't just open a simple portal. They manifested what can only be described as a door of darkness. This is not a flimsy, easily manipulated barrier, but a monumental construct of their own making. It is a gate forged from the dense corrosive elements of their repeated jealousy, the sharp edges of their slander, and the molten core of their persistent evil intentions directed solely at you. Imagine for a moment the immense suffocating weight of this door. It is not merely a conceptual entryway, but a spiritual edifice that embodies every single negative thought word and deed they have aimed your way. Each malicious whisper, every envious glance, every act of sabotage, every dark ritual performed against you has been meticulously hammered and fused into the very substance of this colossal gate. Its sheer mass is derived directly from the cumulative burden of their own sin and malice, a spiritual gravity that pulls down relentlessly. The energy required to even conceive of such sustained malevolence is staggering. But to manifest it as a functional portal for attack demands an even greater unholy expenditure. This door therefore serves as a tangible representation of their deviation from divine order, their voluntary plunge into the deepest shadows. It is heavy with the density of their karmic debt, thick with the grime of their unrepented actions, and dark with the absence of light and truth. Unbeknownst to them, every fragment of ill will they sought to project outwards only served to add another ton to this spiritual barrier, making it an increasingly unwieldy and self-destructive instrument. Its very existence a testament to their obsession and hatred is a prison of their own design, a truth revealed as the weight begins to tell. In their profound spiritual blindness and the intoxicating grip of their own malevolence, your adversaries harbored a dangerous delusion. They gazed upon this ponderous door of darkness, the very embodiment of their accumulated sin, and in their misguided pride believed themselves robust enough to wield it. They were convinced that their perceived strength, rooted in ego and dark ambition, would be sufficient to keep this colossal spiritual gateway ajar, allowing them to continuously unleash their destructive forces upon you without consequence. This catastrophic miscalculation stemmed from a fundamental underestimation of a universal truth, the inescapable weight of karma. Karma is not some abstract, distant concept. It is the immediate, tangible, spiritual law of cause and effect, an energetic balance scale that meticulously weighs every action and intention. Your enemies, in their hubris, failed to grasp that the very act of forging and attempting to hold open such a door generated an equally powerful counteracting force. Each instance of jealousy, each act of slander, each evil intention, rather than simply exiting their being and striking you, was also accumulating accruing spiritual density and attaching itself to the spiritual structure they were attempting to manipulate. They saw only their intent to harm, never realizing that the spiritual fabric itself was recording and counterbalancing their actions. They presumed their dark will was limitless, their endurance infinite, but they utterly failed to account for the spiritual repercussions inherent in violating divine order. The weight of karma is not merely a metaphor. It is the inexorable spiritual pressure of cosmic justice silently accumulating with every transgression. This unseen force was quietly but powerfully pressing back against their efforts, making their self-created portal of darkness not a weapon of liberation for them, but a profound and increasingly unbearable burden. The profound underestimation of karma's weight inevitably led to an even deeper pitfall for your adversaries, a relentless, soul-draining exhaustion. They learned to their detriment that opening this door was merely the first, albeit monumental step. To sustain its operation, to keep it from slamming shut under its own crushing spiritual gravity, required a continuous, grueling expenditure of life force. This is the phenomenon of gatekeeper fatigue, a spiritual toll exacted upon anyone audacious enough to wage war against a divinely protected soul. Imagine trying to hold open a gate made of solid lead, perpetually battling against its natural inclination to fall closed. This is the spiritual plight of your enemies. Maintaining an attack on a chosen one is not a passive act, nor is it a simple flick of a switch. It is an active, demanding, and incredibly draining spiritual endeavor. Every malevolent thought, every dark prayer, every effort to manipulate circumstances against you demands a massive outflow of their own energetic resources. They are not merely projecting negative energy. They are actively battling against the divine shield that surrounds you, against the angels God has appointed to guard your path, and against the inherent light and truth within your spirit. This constant spiritual friction, this unending push against divine protection, requires them to siphon their own vitality, their own inner strength, and even their very essence to fuel their futile assault. Each moment they attempted to hold open that door of darkness, another sliver of their own spiritual life force was consumed. They believed that they were draining your energy, but in reality, they were bleeding themselves dry, an insidious form of self-sabotage orchestrated by their own misplaced aggression. The cost of their malice became an unpayable spiritual debt, manifesting as an unbearable weariness that gnawed at their very core. The inevitable consequence of this relentless spiritual expenditure and the unseen pressure of karmic weight has now manifested in a stark and undeniable reality. The period of their sustained malevolence has stretched beyond any reasonable limit, and the spiritual ledger has reached its breaking point. They are no longer merely expending energy, they are utterly depleted, their reserves completely tapped. This is their current undeniable state, profound exhaustion, a weariness that has seeped into every fiber of their being, born from the prolonged and ultimately fruitless effort of holding that door of darkness open for far too long. Observe them now, not with anger, but with the quiet understanding of a prophet discerning truth. Their energy is spent, their resilience shattered. The continuous drain of battling against divine forces, combined with the crushing spiritual weight of their own accumulated malice, has brought them to a precipice of profound fatigue. This isn't just physical tiredness, it's a deep-seated spiritual and mental weariness that renders their dark intentions impotent. Their once fervent desire to harm you has been dulled by this pervasive exhaustion. Their capacity for sustained wickedness diminished. They are like weary gatekeepers who have stood guard for an eternity, their muscles atrophied, their wills broken, their focus blurred by the sheer magnitude of their self-imposed task. The once burning fire of their hatred has been reduced to smoldering embers, barely able to generate a flicker of ill intent. This state of profound depletion is a direct result of their relentless, misguided campaign against a divinely protected soul. It is a sign, a powerful omen, that their reign of attempted spiritual terror is drawing to an end, not through your direct action, but through the natural, divinely ordained consequences of their own choices. The comfort in this revelation is immense, for their very weakness signals your coming freedom from their shadow, adding to their profound exhaustion and the crushing weight they can no longer bear. Another immutable spiritual law comes into play, a principle of energetic dynamics that ensures the self-undoing of all dark intentions. It is what we might call the vacuum law, a profound truth that dictates that the very act of opening a door to project spiritual malice, especially witchcraft, inadvertently creates a powerful unseen force, a backward suction wind. This spiritual vortex doesn't merely exist passively. It actively pulls back, ensuring a swift and unavoidable reckoning. Envision this spiritual phenomenon when your adversaries, in their deluded attempts, ripped open that door of darkness to cast their spells and project their malevolent energies toward you. They did not create a one-way channel. Instead, they unwittingly initiated a powerful energetic displacement, much like puncturing a sealed container. The spiritual void they created by attempting to empty out their negativity toward you simultaneously generated an immediate and intense suction, a spiritual backdraft. This backward suction wind is not benign. It is a force designed to restore balance. Rather than merely drawing back their own spent energy, it actively pulls at the very essence of their dark intentions, their witchcraft, and their malice, creating a powerful feedback loop. It's as if the spiritual atmosphere, repelled by the darkness they project, recoils with an equal and opposite force, drawing the toxicity back to its source with undeniable velocity. This suction is amplified by your own inherent light and the divine protection that surrounds you. The purity you embody creates an even stronger counter-pressure, ensuring that their dark projections cannot find purchase, but are instead violently repelled and drawn back to their origin point. This law acts as a fundamental defense, a spiritual immune system that purifies the energetic field by ensuring that all that is sent forth in darkness is inevitably returned to the sender, often with intensified force before it can even touch your sacred space. It is in this sacred dynamic that your inherent holiness, a divine emanation from your very being, plays an absolutely pivotal role. Imagine then the purity and light that constantly radiates from you, not as a passive glow, but as an active, potent force, an unyielding spiritual current. As the enemy attempts to project their dark intentions, their witchcraft, their jealousy, their slander through that ill-conceived door, and as the vacuum law generates its powerful backsuction, it is precisely at this juncture that your holiness is drawn into the fray. This isn't merely a reflection, it's a direct energetic confrontation. The very essence of your divine alignment, the purity of your spirit, and the unwavering grace that envelops you acts like an unstoppable counterforce. This sacred energy, imbued with divine fire, rushes back through that open door, not just returning their darkness, but transforming and incinerating it. It is as though the very act of their malevolence opens a direct conduit for the consuming fire of your divine protection and truth to rush straight back to its source. Their dark intentions, forged in the depths of malice and sin, are utterly incompatible with the radiant purity that you inherently possess. The backward suction wind becomes a divine bellows, fanning the flames of your holiness into a purifying inferno that consumes their dark craft, their spells, their curses, and every wicked desire they harbored against you. They thought they were projecting darkness. Instead, they inadvertently opened a pathway for divine light to flow back to them, burning up the very foundation of their destructive will, leaving their intentions not merely nullified, but utterly obliterated, ensuring that their darkness cannot stand in the presence of the anointing upon your life. Beyond the dynamic interplay of energetic feedback and the immediate nullification of incoming darkness, there exists a profound and wondrous truth about your divine safeguard. You are endowed with an extraordinary, bespoke defense system. This isn't a mere shield that reactively blocks, but an intricate, intelligent, celestial architecture woven into the very fabric of your spiritual existence. It is a masterpiece of divine design, specifically calibrated and perfected for your unique journey, ensuring an unparalleled level of protection that operates ceaselessly on your behalf, often without your conscious awareness working in the unseen realms. This celestial architecture isn't a passive structure. It's a dynamic, responsive entity operating with precise, divine timing, much like a highly advanced automated security system designed by the ultimate engineer. It functions under a sophisticated lockdown protocol that monitors the spiritual environment surrounding you with unfailing vigilance. When the invisible meters of the divine register a critical escalation in threat level, when the enemy's malice reaches a crescendo, when their dark intentions intensify beyond a divinely predetermined threshold, this intelligent system doesn't hesitate. It automatically and instantaneously triggers an absolute protection mode, sealing you off from all forms of spiritual intrusion with an impregnable barrier of light and grace. This isn't a human-engineered firewall that can be breached or bypassed. It is a divine containment field powered by the omnipotence of God, ensuring that no weapon formed against you can prosper. Every malicious whisper, every curse hurled, every spell cast is not merely deflected, but entirely absorbed and nullified by this impenetrable shield. It's a complete spiritual lockdown, a divine quarantine zone around your spirit, soul, and body, rendering you untouchable by the principalities and powers of darkness. This protocol ensures that even as the enemy strains with every fiber of their being to maintain their attack, they are not only failing to reach you, but are actively depleting themselves against a defense system that only becomes stronger and more resolute with every assault, transforming their efforts into the very energy that fortifies your sanctuary. As the enemy fruitlessly expends their energy against this impregnable lockdown, a critical spiritual threshold is crossed within their own realm, the saturation of iniquity. The ancient text of Genesis chapter 15, verse 16, offers a profound insight, revealing that the iniquity of the Amorites was not yet complete, signifying a divine patience, a measured allowance for wickedness to fill its cup before judgment is rendered. But for your adversaries, those who have relentlessly pursued your downfall with unceasing malice, that cup of wickedness has long since overflowed. Their ceaseless jealousy, their relentless slander, their unwavering evil intentions, and their persistent attempts at spiritual harm have accumulated into an overwhelming spiritual debt. They have not merely sipped from the cup of iniquity, they have plunged it into the depths of depravity, filling it beyond its capacity, allowing their malicious actions to reach a point of divine saturation. This is not arbitrary. It is the natural consequence of spiritual law. Every act of darkness, every malicious thought, every ill-will deed adds an immutable weight to their spiritual account, and there comes a moment when the scales of divine justice tip decisively. For your enemies, that moment has arrived. Their transgressions are no longer accumulating in an uncompleted measure. They have reached their zenith, signaling an imminent and unavoidable divine reckoning. This overflow signifies that the season of divine allowance is over, and the time for a profound shift in the spiritual landscape is at hand, setting the stage for an irreversible consequence for their persistent malevolence. In the intricate dance of divine protection and judgment, there were guardians unseen, yet undeniably present, forming a crucial barrier. Before this moment of overflowing iniquity and absolute protection, mighty protective angels stood steadfastly between you and the door of darkness your enemies had so malevolently flung open. These celestial sentinels, armed with divine authority and cloaked in radiant light, positioned themselves as an unyielding bulwark, absorbing the direct impact of every wave of attack, every spiritual dart, every fiery arrow launched against you. They were the immediate interceptors, ensuring that the malevolent energy, though projected with venomous intent, could not directly touch or penetrate your spirit. Their presence was a testament to God's tender care, a visible to the spiritual eye manifestation of His promise to shield His chosen. They bore the brunt of the spiritual assaults, their forms shimmering with the energy of deflection, preventing the full force of the enemy's desperation and frustration from reaching you. They stood firm, their wings spread wide, creating a consecrated buffer zone, not allowing the weight of that dark door or the impact of its malevolence to crush or even faze you. Their vigilance was constant, their defense unwavering, holding back the storm until the appointed time. They were the visible extension of the lockdown protocol, ensuring your absolute safety, but their role too was bound by divine timing and a higher command, preparing for the dramatic shift that was to come. Then, in a moment that transcends the linear progression of time, a divine decree resonated through the spiritual realms, absolute and unequivocal. It was not a whisper nor a suggestion, but a powerful, resonant declaration from the very heart of creation. The words, "With the angelic guardians, those magnificent bulwarks of light no longer bearing its terrible burden, the spiritual door of darkness forged from the collective weight of your enemy's envy, slander, and malicious intent began its catastrophic descent." This was not a slow, gentle closing, but an instantaneous, brutal collapse, a monumental force of spiritual gravity asserting itself. The door, heavy with the accumulated sin and malice of every attack, every whispered lie, every dark ritual directed your way, was no longer suspended by their desperate efforts or held at bay by divine grace. It became an embodiment of their own karmic debt, a colossal structure built of their negativity, now turning against its architects. Imagine the deafening crash, not heard by human ears but felt deep within the spiritual fabric as this immense iniquitous portal slammed shut. It crushed not merely their fleeting attempts at aggression, but the very foundations of their malevolent enterprise, sending shockwaves through their spiritual realm. This impact signified more than just a barrier closing. It marked the undeniable, crushing return of every dark seed they had sown, every evil intention they had projected, now rebounding upon them with an intensified, inescapable force, rendering their spiritual defenses utterly shattered and their malicious efforts utterly futile. It was the universe's ultimate decree of justice, a moment of profound spiritual physics, where action met its unyielding reaction, leaving destruction in its wake for those who dared to defy the divine order. In their relentless, almost maniacal pursuit to undermine your peace and dismantle your blessings, your adversaries embarked on an arduous and futile campaign, attempting 1,000 different pathways to inflict harm, yet encountering an insurmountable barrier with every single endeavor. Their methods were varied and insidious, ranging from subtle whispers of defamation to overt acts of spiritual warfare, from cunning manipulations in the physical realm to direct assaults in the spiritual. They meticulously crafted schemes, spun intricate webs of deceit, and relentlessly hurled every form of negativity imaginable, believing each new strategy would finally pierce your divine shield. Yet time and again, their efforts dissolved into nothingness, like smoke attempting to hold form against an unyielding wind. Each failure, instead of serving as a deterrent, only fueled a more desperate, more venomous resolve within them, propelling them deeper into the abyss of their own malice. They invested immense spiritual and emotional energy, pouring their darkest intentions into these attacks, only to witness them dissipate, leaving behind only the bitter taste of defeat. This protracted cycle of trying and failing, of investing and receiving no malicious return, began to create an insidious pressure within their own spiritual and psychological landscape, a corrosive force that slowly but surely undermined their very being. This relentless barrage of consecutive failures, where every attempt to harm you met with an impenetrable divine defense, did not simply vanish into thin air. Instead, it transmuted into an immense back pressure, an internal spiritual force that began to relentlessly bear down upon your enemy's own spiritual framework. Imagine a dam constructed to hold back an ocean of malevolence, but instead of containing it, the pressure began to build on the inside of the dam itself, threatening its very integrity. Every single one of their negative projections denied its intended target, rebounded, and accumulated within their own spiritual space, creating a dense, suffocating energy. This back pressure wasn't just psychological frustration. It was a tangible spiritual weight, a manifestation of their unfulfilled malice and the divine law of reciprocity. It eroded their inner strength, fractured their dark alliances, and systematically dismantled the very structure they had built upon lies, jealousy, and evil intentions. This internal collapse manifested in various forms: sudden misfortunes, inexplicable discord in their relationships, a pervasive sense of unease, and a profound spiritual exhaustion that sapped their will and vitality, causing their self-made prison walls to crumble inward, trapping them within the ruins of their own dark designs. Their spiritual edifice, once seemingly formidable, began to crack and splinter from the inside out, unable to withstand the cumulative force of its own failed malevolence. In the grand tapestry of divine providence, it is crucial to understand that while God, in His infinite wisdom and sovereign plan, allowed the door of spiritual opposition to be opened, thereby permitting your testing and refinement, He simultaneously established an immutable, non-negotiable limit. He permitted your enemies to unleash their barrage of jealousy, slander, and ill will, allowing these forces to be projected towards you to gauge your faith, strengthen your resolve, and reveal His unwavering protection. However, He adamantly, absolutely, and unequivocally did not permit them to step through that threshold of darkness to inflict genuine destruction upon your life, your spirit, or your destiny. There was an invisible yet impenetrable divine barrier precisely at the point where their malice would transition from mere assault to irreversible devastation. They were granted the illusion of power, the fleeting opportunity to try and fail, but never the authority to succeed in your downfall. Every single attempt, no matter how cunning or venomous, was meticulously monitored and contained within the precise parameters of God's perfect will. This was not a battle for your defeat, but a divinely orchestrated crucible for your purification and elevation, a testament to the unfailing covenant he holds with you. The enemy in their blinded arrogance believed they held sway, unaware that their every move was sanctioned only to the extent that it served God's ultimate purpose for your triumph, never for your destruction. They were permitted to approach the precipice, but never to push you over, to dig a pit, but never to ensnare you, to roll a stone, but never to crush you. This divine boundary, unwavering and absolute, ensured that you remained untouchable in your core, preserved by the very hand that allowed the trial. Building upon this sacred truth, where divine limits were meticulously drawn and vigilantly maintained, we now stand at a pivotal moment, a profound spiritual inflection point that reverberates across the heavens and the earth. For what was once a permissible trial, carefully calibrated and purposefully allowed to forge resilience within your spirit, has finally reached its divinely ordained conclusion, not a moment too soon, nor a moment too late. The cosmic scales have tipped decisively, and from the very throne of grace, a new and unwavering decree has been issued, echoing through the realms, declaring the cessation of the siege. That immutable limit, which has safeguarded your spirit through every onslaught, absorbing the venom and deflecting the malice, has now been officially, unequivocally, and triumphantly reached. This is far more than just the end of a challenging season. It is the dawning of an era where the enemy's permissible reach has been fully exhausted, their insidious mandate to harass irrevocably revoked, and the ledger of their iniquity undeniably closed. There are moments in life when divine orchestration becomes unmistakably clear, and the closing of a particular door is one such profound instance. This was no gentle click, no soft thud into a latch. Rather, it was a colossal, resounding crash that sealed an era and redefined destinies. What transpired was not merely a closure, but a pulverizing force, a monumental weight descending with an intensity that flattened every nefarious scheme and every malicious intent that lay in its path. Imagine the absolute, undeniable finality of a giant slab of granite falling, leaving naught but a desolate, utterly crushed landscape in its wake. Following in the wake of this cataclysmic closure, the very foundations upon which their ill-gotten gains and false narratives were built have begun to buckle under immense pressure. Careers once seemingly formidable and secure are now suffering a relentless, agonizing compression, not by external adversaries, but by the sheer, suffocating weight of their own deceit. Their carefully constructed reputations, meticulously crafted with fabrications and cunning, are being systematically squeezed, leaving nothing but dust and fragmented remnants of their former standing. The edifice of their professional lives, built upon the shifting sands of untruths, is now imploding, a direct consequence of the deceptive narratives they so diligently propagated. And within the confines of this newly sealed oppressive space, a chilling transformation has begun to unfold. The very alliance that once coalesced with such malicious intent, driven by a singular purpose to inflict harm upon you, now finds itself irrevocably trapped, imprisoned behind the unyielding barrier of that door. What was once a pact of convenience and shared animosity has devolved into a shared sentence, forcing them into a proximity they can no longer escape. This enforced cohabitation under the shadow of their own failing designs is now revealing the deep fissures that were always present beneath their veneer of unity. With no escape in sight and the crushing weight of their collective failure pressing down the fragile bonds that once held their alliance together, have completely disintegrated, giving way to an agonizing spectacle of self-destruction. Panic, a venomous, unbridled force, has taken root within their ranks, turning erstwhile partners into rabid adversaries. They now claw at each other in a desperate frenzy, driven by fear and self-preservation, blaming, attacking, and ultimately destroying the very individuals they once conspired with. This internal cannibalization is not merely a metaphor, but a visceral reality as they consume each other's credibility and standing in a desperate, futile attempt to escape the inevitable. As this frantic implosion continues, a more insidious and profound unraveling is taking hold, the insidious erosion of their mental control. The very arrows of fear, apprehension, and doubt that they meticulously crafted and launched with cruel precision towards you have, by an undeniable law of spiritual physics, dramatically ricocheted back. These potent projectiles, once intended to destabilize your peace, now pierce their own minds, sowing seeds of relentless anxiety and profound psychological distress. The torment they sought to inflict has become their own inescapable reality, manifesting as a pervasive loss of mental equilibrium and an inability to grasp any semblance of inner peace. The psychological distress deepens further as the nights become a relentless torment, manifesting as a profound insomnia reversal. Those who once reveled in your disquiet, who consciously orchestrated your sleepless nights with their malicious schemes and relentless attacks, now find themselves ensnared in an inescapable cycle of wakefulness. Their minds, once so sharp in their malevolence, are now a churning maelstrom of regret, paranoia, and fear, preventing any semblance of peace. The very quiet of the night, which you once longed for in peace, has become their personal hell, filled not with the serenity of rest, but with the haunting echoes of accusing voices, perhaps their own conscience, or the divine whisper of justice, or even the spectral remnants of their crumbling alliance turning on them. These are the voices of their past deeds, each lie, each betrayal, each cruel word, now replaying in an endless loop, stealing their sleep and gnawing at their sanity. They are now the ones tossing and turning, caught in the grip of a torment far more potent than any they could ever inflict, experiencing the bitter taste of their own medicine. Indeed, the ancient scriptures themselves bear witness to this precise moment of reckoning, encapsulated profoundly in Psalm chapter 7, verse 16, "His trouble shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate." This isn't merely a poetic verse. It is a prophetic declaration, a divine assurance that every meticulously crafted snare, every wicked plot hatched in the darkness, every cruel word uttered, and every act of violence perpetrated against the innocent will, without fail, be redirected to its original sender. The very weight of the trouble they sought to cast upon you is now inverted, an unstoppable force pulling down upon their own being, their own mind, their own circumstances. It is a cosmic law in action, a spiritual boomerang effect, where the energy of malevolence once launched completes its circuit, finding its ultimate target not in the intended victim, but in the heart and life of its originator. This divine principle ensures that justice is not merely abstract, but a tangible, undeniable force that brings consequences full circle. This isn't merely a psychological shift. It's a profound, almost architectural dismantling of their ill-gotten structures and a vivid physical description of disaster falling straight down onto the one who created it. Picture a towering edifice built upon foundations of deceit and malicious intent, now succumbing to the very stresses it imposed on others. The collapse is not sideways, not oblique, but a direct vertical implosion pulling everything down upon itself. It is the direct consequence of their own actions, a manifestation of the spiritual law that what you sow, you shall reap, only intensified by the hand of divine justice. The destructive force they unleashed upon your life, the chaos they tried to inject into your world, has now gathered critical mass and is collapsing inward, creating a vacuum that sucks them down into the very abyss they dug for you. This is the universe rebalancing, the scales of justice tipping, and the architects of pain now find themselves trapped beneath the crushing weight of their own creation, with nowhere to run or hide from the inevitable consequences. And as the spiritual and mental foundations crumble, so too do the very tangible pillars of their power, particularly in the realm of financial evaporation. The resources they meticulously accumulated, the wealth they leveraged to fund their campaigns of evil and manipulation, are now being systematically confiscated by divine justice. This isn't a mere downturn. It's a supernatural intervention, a meticulous reclaiming of what was misused and ill-gotten. Every penny, every asset, every material gain that was tainted by their wicked intentions is now being subjected to a divine audit and an irreversible sequestration. The means they employ to inflict harm, to spread lies, and to oppress are being stripped away, leaving them devoid of the very tools they once wielded with such arrogance. This confiscation is not arbitrary. It is a precision strike by the hand of ultimate justice, ensuring that the funding mechanisms of malevolence are utterly dismantled, rendering them powerless to continue their destructive endeavors. Following this divine confiscation, they will bear witness to a phenomenon that defies all logic and explanation: their money vanishing. This isn't a mere market fluctuation or a business downturn. It's an undeniable, irrational, and uncontrollable depletion of assets. Funds will disappear from accounts with no clear explanation. Investments will mysteriously dwindle, and sources of income will dry up unexpectedly, leaving them bewildered and powerless. They will watch in horrified disbelief as their financial empires, once seemingly unshakable, begin to dissolve like mist. Every attempt to salvage or restore their wealth will be met with inexplicable failures, compounding their despair. This is the universe's way of ensuring that every avenue of their material comfort and power is systematically dismantled, reflecting the spiritual bankruptcy that long resided within their hearts. Their once seemingly endless resources, which they used to underwrite their schemes, will now become a source of constant anxiety, a stark reminder of the ultimate price of their transgressions as they face an irreversible, inexplicable financial freefall. In the wake of their financial evaporation, a more profound and devastating consequence unfolds, initiated by the sheer force of the divine intervention. The door did not merely close. Its resounding slam sent reverberations through the very foundations of their carefully constructed deceit. This seismic spiritual tremor has begun to dislodge and unearth everything they desperately sought to keep hidden, causing secrets to spill out into the unforgiving light. It is a moment of inescapable revelation, where the hidden machinations and veiled intentions are brought forth from the shadows, making concealment utterly impossible. This isn't just an accidental discovery. It is a systematic and divinely orchestrated unmasking, a cosmic clearing of the slate, where truth can no longer be suppressed. The metaphorical slamming of the door has created a spiritual vacuum, pulling long-buried agendas, insidious manipulations, and carefully guarded betrayals to the surface with an irresistible force. Every hidden meeting, every whispered plot, every act of sabotage carried out in the dark will now find its way into public consciousness, illuminated by an inescapable light that penetrates the deepest recesses of their secrecy. The light here is not merely the illumination of facts, but a divine clarity that pierces through all layers of deception, rendering their once impenetrable walls of falsehood transparent. This epical moment ensures that the universe itself becomes an accomplice in truth-telling, conspiring to reveal every single thread of their deception, leaving no stone unturned and no lie unexposed. Their entire edifice of lies, built on a shaky foundation, is now collapsing under the weight of its own inherent untruths, revealing the darkness that underpin their every move. As these long-held secrets gush forth, a stark and undeniable clarity settles upon the eyes of those who once observed them. This isn't merely the exposure of isolated events, but rather the meticulous assembly of disparate pieces into a coherent, horrifying mosaic, revealing their true character for all to see. Their carefully constructed facades, their polished public personas of integrity, piety, or benevolence will now shatter into 1,000 fragments, exposing the raw, ugly truth beneath. The revelations that have surfaced are not just a collection of facts. They are irrefutable evidence that paints an unequivocal picture of who these individuals truly are at their core. People who once extended trust, offered admiration, or even defended them will now witness the stark reality of their malice, deceit, and the self-serving ambition that fueled their every action. This revelation will transcend mere gossip or rumor. It will be an undeniable, visceral understanding etched into the collective consciousness of everyone who has been touched by their orbit. It signifies a complete stripping away of all pretense, a divine X-ray that penetrates the superficial and lays bare the dark, corrupted core of their being. The clarity of this new perception will be startling, universal, and utterly undeniable among their former associates, their victims, and anyone with a shred of discernment, leaving them exposed in their authentic, unvarnished ugliness before the world. With their true nature now laid bare and their carefully crafted illusions shattered, a profound internal seismic shift begins within them, transforming them into the hunted. The wisdom of ancient scripture rings profoundly true in this moment. Proverbs chapter 28, verse 1 declares, "The wicked flee when no one pursues." This isn't a physical flight from a visible adversary, but a desperate, frantic internal scramble, a psychological and spiritual exodus from the unbearable truth of who they are. This internal fleeing manifests as a relentless, gnawing panic that consumes their every waking moment. With their public image utterly demolished and their inner darkness expose their own conscience, the anticipated consequences of their actions and the sheer weight of their revealed evil become their most formidable and tireless pursuers. They are not running from your actions, for you are doing nothing but from the phantoms of their own making, from the inescapable judgment that arises from within. Every shadow seems to hold a threat, every silence a condemnation. Their once confident stride is replaced by a perpetual unease, an anxious looking over their shoulder, convinced that retribution is always imminent. This is the natural, devastating consequence of aligning with malevolence, a self-inflicted spiritual paranoia that transforms their inner world into an inescapable prison of guilt and terrors even when there is no visible enemy on their trail. This internal pursuit swiftly escalates into an all-consuming state of terror, a pervasive and relentless dread that clings to them like a shroud even though you are doing absolutely nothing to provoke it. Their fear is not a reaction to external threats or your deliberate actions, but rather an agonizing symptom of their complete internal unraveling. Their consciousness has become a perpetual battlefield where the specters of past actions, the looming shadow of potential repercussions, and the sheer crushing weight of their countless misdeeds constantly torment and assail them. Every innocuous event, every casual glance, every moment of silence transforms into a harbinger of doom in their fractured minds. The terror they experience is a spiritual consequence, a constant gnawing anxiety that systematically strips them of all peace, all comfort, and all semblance of sanity. They are relentlessly haunted by the indelible stain of what they have done, and their own minds, once instruments of deceit and manipulation, have now become the most merciless instruments of their torment. Your absolute detachment and complete inaction only serve to amplify their fear, for in the absence of a tangible, visible enemy, their internal torment becomes all the more potent, all the more pervasive, and utterly inescapable. They are caught in a self-perpetuating nightmare where the only pursuer is the truth they tried so desperately to bury. While they descend into this self-made abyss of terror, a profound and miraculous shift is occurring within you, ushering in a season of unprecedented lightness. You begin to wake up each day feeling an astonishing difference in your very being, as if the air in your lungs is significantly lighter, purer, and infinitely easier to draw. This isn't merely an emotional uplift. It's a deep somatic and spiritual release, an undeniable physical manifestation of the energetic cords that have finally been severed. The oppressive weight, the unseen psychic burden that lingered due to their negative energies and constant machinations has vanished completely, lifting a cloud you might not have even realized was always there. It's akin to emerging from the suffocating depths of a deep, murky ocean into the crisp, invigorating air of a mountaintop. You experience the effortless ease of each breath, the unburdening of your soul, and the sudden glorious absence of an invisible load you had perhaps out of necessity grown accustomed to carrying. This profound lightness is the tangible, undeniable evidence of a monumental spiritual shift, a divine intervention that has quite literally lightened your existence, allowing pure, untainted oxygen to fill every cell of your body and every corner of your spirit. It is a deeply personal, restorative miracle, a gentle yet powerful affirmation that the season of conflict, the arduous war that weighed so heavily upon you, has definitively and triumphantly ended, allowing you to breathe freely at last. Building upon this newfound freedom of breath, you now experience an even deeper, more profound release, the complete vanishing of an unseen burden that has long compressed your very essence. The pervasive chest compression, a metaphor for the immense psychic and energetic weight caused by hundreds of energy drainers, has completely dissipated. This was not merely a feeling of stress, but a literal spiritual and often physical constriction, a constant pressure on your heart and soul exerted by their relentless negativity, envy, and schemes. For too long, you bore the invisible weight of their machinations, their attempts to siphon your light and sabotage your path, a burden so insidious it became a part of your daily reality, a subtle yet pervasive ache that you might have unconsciously normalized. But now in this new season, that crushing weight has been miraculously lifted, leaving behind an astonishing void where chronic discomfort once resided. It is as if a monumental invisible rock that sat upon your chest has been rolled away by a divine hand, allowing not just air, but pure, unadulterated life force to surge through your being with an exhilarating, unobstructed flow. This profound liberation marks an end to the era of spiritual oppression, signaling that the divine scales have tilted decisively in your favor, granting you an unprecedented level of peace and physical lightness you haven't known in years, perhaps even decades. In perfect synchronicity with your internal liberation, an astonishing external phenomenon begins to manifest. A profound and utterly suspicious silence descends from those who once roared with malice. The cacophony of their attacks, the relentless barrage of criticism, gossip, and overt sabotage has abruptly ceased, replaced by an eerie and almost unsettling quiet. Where once their voices echoed with accusation and condemnation, a profound stillness now reigns, their former loudness suddenly inexplicably muted. This isn't the silence of a momentary pause or a tactical retreat. It is a deep, resounding absence of their presence, an unnerving cessation of the noise that had become an unwanted soundtrack to your life. The aggressive chatter has dissolved into an unspoken void, their once fierce pronouncements replaced by an almost deafening quietude that speaks volumes more than their previous clamor ever could. This sudden muteness is a powerful sign, a stark contrast to their habitual belligerence, hinting at a seismic shift that has occurred beyond your immediate perception, a change so fundamental it has rendered them utterly incapable of continuing their harmful assaults. You notice it first as an absence, then as a profound relief, and finally as an undeniable confirmation that a significant battle has been fought and won not by your hand, but by a higher power at work. This newfound silence, however, is not born of a change of heart or a moment of profound repentance on their part. Rather, it stems from an irreversible crushing, a complete and utter depletion of their strength to speak or act against you. They are not quiet because they have seen the error of their ways, but because the very lies and manipulations they wielded have turned inward, flattening everything beneath them. including their own capacity for further aggression. The elaborate structure of deceit they constructed has imploded, trapping them within its ruins, leaving them with no energy, no voice, and no platform from which to launch another attack. This is the divine consequence of their own actions, a self-inflicted wound so devastating that it has rendered them inert, leaving them to grapple with the internal chaos they so readily sowed. Their silence is the sound of their own internal collapse, the echo of their alliance cannibalizing itself in a panic, their fear ricocheting back upon them with an inescapable force. They are not merely silenced, they are incapacitated, their spirits broken, their will to harm shattered by the very mechanisms they deployed against you. It is the grim stillness of a battlefield after a decisive, overwhelming judgment where the defeated have no strength left even to whimper. As the dark door of judgment slams shut on the side of your adversaries, sealing their fate and silencing their malicious intent, a magnificent luminous door simultaneously swings open wide for you. This is not mere coincidence, but a divinely orchestrated counterpoint, a powerful affirmation of cosmic justice and precise timing. The very moment their path was blocked and their capacity for harm dissolved, a new radiant gateway appeared on your horizon, ushering in an era of unprecedented opportunity and divine favor. Imagine the heavy, imposing door of their darkness, once a barrier and a source of dread, now firmly and irrevocably sealed, preventing any further ingress of negativity into your life. In that exact instant, a door bathed in pure golden light materialized before you, representing not just an escape from past burdens, but an invitation into a future filled with promise. This is a spiritual threshold marking the end of your endurance in the crucible and the beginning of your ascent. It signifies a profound shift in spiritual dimensions, a clear demarcation between the season of trial and the season of triumphant restoration, where every hindrance that once held you back has been removed, and every path forward is now illuminated with divine purpose and ease. Through this newly open door of light, a torrent of new opportunities is now arriving, not gradually, but rapidly and abundantly, almost overwhelming in its speed and breadth. These are not merely chance encounters or minor advantages. These are significant, life-altering breakthroughs, divine appointments, and accelerated manifestations of long-held dreams. Projects you envisioned years ago suddenly find their funding and their ideal collaborators. Relationships that uplift and empower you begin to emerge, replacing the energy drainers of the past. Your creativity, once stifled by the constant spiritual warfare, now flows unimpeded, birthing brilliant ideas and tangible successes with astonishing ease. Doors that were once stubbornly shut against you now fly open with minimal effort, as if the universe itself is conspiring to compensate you for every moment of hardship you endured. This surge of new possibilities is a direct consequence of the cleared path, the removed obstacles, and the divine endorsement that now rests upon your life. It is the tangible evidence that the resources they use to fund evil are being confiscated and transferred, preparing your storehouse for an influx of blessings that will solidify your position and empower your purpose beyond anything you could have previously imagined. As this new door of light swings wide, inviting a cascade of blessings, you will observe a remarkable transformation, not just in your external circumstances, but profoundly within your very being. A deep restorative healing begins to unfold, touching the core of your physical vessel. The unexplained aches that once plagued your joints, the persistent dull throb in your temples, and the profound chronic fatigue that weighed down your spirit like a shroud all begin to dissipate. This isn't a gradual fading. It is a sudden miraculous alleviation, as if a heavy burden you didn't even realize you were carrying has been lifted. For so long, your body bore the brunt of constant spiritual attacks, serving as a battleground where unseen forces attempted to drain your very life essence. These ailments were often not merely physical. They were the tangible manifestations of sustained energetic warfare, the residual effects of spiritual toxins. Now, with the perpetrators of this energetic drain effectively neutralized and sealed behind a slammed door, your physical being is finally free to recalibrate. The constant demand on your internal resources to defend, deflect, and endure has ceased, allowing your body's innate healing mechanisms to surge forth unimpeded. You will find yourself waking with a clarity and lightness that feels foreign yet deeply familiar, a true testament to the divine restoration underway, signaling the profound truth that your health is being divinely reclaimed and renewed from the inside out. Following this profound restoration of health, a magnificent surge of vital energy will sweep through your entire being like a river of living water coursing through parched lands. This is not merely the absence of fatigue, it is the exhilarating return of a powerful, vibrant life force that you might not have realized had been depleted for so long. Imagine waking each morning feeling genuinely refreshed, not just rested, but imbued with an almost electric zeal for the day ahead. The tasks that once seemed insurmountable, draining your motivation before you even began, now feel effortlessly achievable. Your mind, once clouded by weariness and confusion, becomes remarkably sharp and clear, ideas flowing with a new brilliance and focus. This renewed vigor manifests in every aspect of your existence, in the physical stamina to pursue passions you had put on hold, in the mental agility to tackle complex challenges, and in the emotional resilience to navigate life with an unshakable sense of peace. It is the divine breath of life reanimating every cell, every sinew, every thought, filling you to overflowing with an energy that is pure, unadulterated, and directly sourced from the divine. This is the universe's way of compensating you for every ounce of energy that was unjustly siphoned, pouring back into you a bounty of strength and vitality that far surpasses what was lost, preparing you for the grand purposes now unfolding before you. As your waking hours are filled with tangible signs of restoration and new beginnings, your sleep too will become a canvas for divine communication and profound affirmation. You will begin to experience vivid, deeply symbolic victory dreams that transcend ordinary subconscious processing and instead serve as powerful spiritual confirmations. Imagine yourself soaring effortlessly through boundless skies, a sensation of absolute freedom and triumph filling your spirit, signifying your spiritual ascent above previous limitations and adversarial forces. Or perhaps you will witness the very enemies who once sought your downfall, now bound, rendered powerless, their former strength reduced to impotence before your eyes. These are not merely fanciful imaginings. They are spiritual dispatches, potent messages from the unseen realm, designed to solidify your faith and reassure your soul. These dreams serve as an undeniable testament to the shift in spiritual dynamics, showing you visually and experientially that the tables have turned, that the battle has been won, and that your oppressors are now experiencing the consequences of their own actions. They are profound acts of reassurance, etching deeply into your subconscious the truth of your divine protection and ultimate victory, preparing you to fully embody the conqueror you were always destined to be. These vivid victory dreams, coupled with the sudden cessation of attacks and the influx of blessings, are more than mere coincidences or psychological responses. They are profound spiritual news. God's unmistakable way of notifying you that the long and arduous war is unequivocally over. Imagine receiving an official communique from the highest authority declaring hostilities ceased and victory secured. That is precisely what these experiences represent in the spiritual realm. God, in His infinite wisdom and love, understands the human need for tangible proof and reassurance after enduring such a prolonged and intense season of conflict. He doesn't just act, He communicates His actions, ensuring that your heart and mind are fully aligned with a new reality. This divine notification is delivered through multiple channels: the sudden, suspicious silence of your former tormentors, the dramatic opening of new opportunities, the miraculous restoration of your health and vitality, and indeed through the powerful imagery of your nocturnal visions. It is a comprehensive spiritual bulletin affirming that the season of relentless battle has drawn to a definitive close, ushering in an era of peace, prosperity, and unparalleled divine favor. This assurance allows you to finally lay down your spiritual armor, knowing that the battle has been fought and won on your behalf, and your spirit is now free to soar without the constant vigilance of war. As you absorb this spiritual news of victory, it is crucial to understand the subtle, ingenious strategy that God employed throughout the preceding season. While the enemy believed they were relentlessly striking at you, launching their venomous darts and draining energies, in reality, they were merely shadowboxing, striking against a meticulously crafted spiritual decoy. This divine stratagem ensured your true self remained protected, shielded behind an intricate veil of celestial defense. The attacks, the curses, the energetic siphoning, all of it was directed at an illusion, a reflection designed by divine wisdom to absorb the brunt of their malice, while your authentic spirit and destiny remained untouched and secure. They expended immense energy, effort, and dark resources believing they were inflicting damage upon you, celebrating false victories over a mere phantom. This profound truth reveals the depth of God's protective love and His mastery in orchestrating spiritual warfare. He allowed them to believe they were engaged in battle, keeping them occupied and focused on a substitute, while simultaneously working behind the scenes to prepare your escape and their inevitable downfall. Their perceived hits were nothing more than blows against the air, a futile exercise that ultimately exhausted their own strength and sealed their fate, all while you, the true target, remained safe, preparing for your majestic reveal. Building upon the profound revelation that the enemy was merely shadowboxing against a spiritual decoy, we now delve deeper into the strategic genius of this divine maneuver. This intricate play, often termed the lure principle, was a masterstroke of celestial warfare, a testament to God's unparalleled wisdom in protecting His own. The reflection was not just a passive shield, It was an active bait precisely calibrated to attract the full force of their malevolent fire, drawing every curse, every energetic siphon, and every dark intention away from your true essence. Imagine a powerful spiritual magnet specifically designed to pull all the debris, all the toxicity, and all the destructive energy towards itself, ensuring that the precious divinely ordained vessel, which is you, remain pristine and unharmed. This decoy absorbed the impact of their relentless assaults, allowing them to believe they were winning to expend their resources and to exhaust their dark power in a completely futile endeavor. Their perceived victories were nothing but blows against the phantom dissipating into the ether, while your spirit, unbeknownst to them, was being fortified and prepared for its magnificent unveiling. It was an act of divine mercy and strategic brilliance, turning their own malicious intent into a tool for their eventual downfall, all while preserving your peace and accelerating your ultimate triumph. As they remained captivated by the illusion, relentlessly striking at a reflection, a far more significant and silent cosmic event was unfolding in your favor. While they were utterly consumed by their desperate attempts to open the door to your destruction, or rather, the door that ultimately became their trap, God was meticulously orchestrating a profound and irreversible shift. This was not merely a subtle adjustment, but a complete relocation of your being to a higher timeline, a new spiritual and energetic reality. Picture yourself on a vast cosmic chessboard, while the enemy pieces were engaged in a fierce, albeit illusory battle. On one square, your divine strategist was silently lifting your piece, moving it to an entirely different, untouchable part of the board far beyond their perception or influence. This shift was executed with such grace and precision that it went completely unnoticed by your adversaries, whose spiritual senses were dulled by their own darkness and focused entirely on their self-created drama. They were locked into their destructive patterns, oblivious to the fact that the very ground beneath your feet had changed, elevating you to a plane where their old weapons and strategies held no sway whatsoever. This higher timeline is saturated with divine favor, accelerated blessings, and a protective aura that is impenetrable to their diminished powers, marking the beginning of a magnificent new chapter in your life, wholly separate from their chaos. The profound implication of this divine shift to a higher timeline, it is unequivocally clear: you are no longer where they believe you to be. Their entire framework of understanding their strategies and their malicious intentions are now built upon a fundamentally flawed premise. They continue to search for you in the spiritual and energetic location you once occupied, directing their dwindling energies and dark magic towards a vacant space, a former shadow of your past. This creates an unbridgeable chasm between their reality and yours, rendering all their subsequent attempts to harm or track you utterly futile. Imagine a hunter meticulously tracking footprints that suddenly vanish into thin air, leaving him bewildered and disoriented in a barren wilderness. Your adversaries are trapped in a similar state of confusion, unable to reconcile your perceived absence with their continued belief in your presence in a vulnerable state. This wrong location is not a physical absence, but a spiritual repositioning and ascension that has lifted you out of their reach and beyond the scope of their limited vision. You exist now in a different dimension of divine grace, a sanctuary where their old maps and dark compasses are entirely useless, ensuring your peace and security are divinely guaranteed. Consequent to this strategic divine repositioning, an astonishing spiritual phenomenon has occurred to them. You have become utterly invisible and untrackable. This is not a mere trick of the light or a momentary concealment, but a profound and permanent alteration of your spiritual signature, making you undetectable to their darkened senses. While they desperately scan the old frequencies, trying to locate your energy and reestablish their malevolent connection, you have simply ceased to exist within their perceptual framework. Their spiritual radar, once seemingly potent, now encounters nothing but static and an empty void where your presence used to be. It's akin to trying to catch moonlight in a net or grasp at smoke. Their efforts are utterly in vain because the object of their pursuit has moved beyond their grasp, existing in a realm they cannot access or even comprehend. This invisibility is a cloak woven from divine light and ascended vibration, ensuring that every attempt they make to perceive, target, or engage with you will meet with complete failure. You are now moving through life shielded by a celestial veil, untouchable by their lower realm manipulations, free to walk in a peace and clarity that they, in their continued blindness, can only envy and never disturb. The underlying principle that explains this profound invisibility and untrackability is a complete frequency mismatch. Just as two radios must be tuned to the exact same frequency to communicate, your adversaries operating on a low, dense, and dark vibrational frequency are now completely out of sync with your ascended, purified, and elevated energetic signature. You have quite literally moved to a new spiritual channel, a higher plane of existence, where their discordant vibrations simply cannot reach or interact with yours. This ascension is a natural consequence of the intense spiritual furnace you endured, which purified your essence and calibrated your being to resonate with divine frequencies of peace, joy, and abundance. Their attempts to track you are like trying to find a high-definition signal using an antiquated, broken receiver. Their equipment is simply not capable of processing your new, refined energy. They are stuck in a lower dimension of fear, anger, and manipulation, while you have transcended to a realm of light, love, and divine order. This frequency mismatch creates an impenetrable barrier, a spiritual force field that deflects all their negative energy and ensures that their efforts to connect, control, or harm you are met with utter silence and a complete lack of response. You are truly on a new level, vibrating with the essence of victory and divine protection utterly beyond their reach. The shift in your frequency wasn't an isolated event, but a strategic maneuver in a much larger divine plan. While your adversaries were consumed by their fruitless pursuit, a cosmic snare was being meticulously laid. This period of intense conflict, which felt so disorienting at the time, was in fact a divinely orchestrated roundup, a cunning strategy designed to gather all opposing forces into a single confined space for ultimate justice. God, in His infinite wisdom and foresight, allowed your enemies to believe they were gaining ground, to feel confident in their machinations, and to intensify their collective assault. They unwittingly opened the very door that would become their prison, drawing closer to the trap with every malicious act. It was a grand celestial chess game where every move they made, every lie they spun, every attack they launched, only served to guide them deeper into the predetermined snare. Their unity against you, once perceived as a formidable threat, became their undoing, as it ensured that no one would be left behind. Imagine a spiritual net slowly but surely enclosing every entity, every person, every spirit that sought to undermine your destiny. They stepped into this trap simultaneously, not by chance, but by divine design, believing they were advancing their agenda, when in reality, they were merely fulfilling a prophetic destiny of being caught in their own devices. This was not merely about your protection. It was about a comprehensive cleansing, a final gathering of all that opposed the light, so that a new era of unhindered blessing could begin for you. They converged unaware that their collective presence was precisely what was required for the next phase of divine judgment to unfold. This carefully orchestrated roundup was not a whimsical act of sudden retribution, but the culmination of a patient, meticulous process within the spiritual courts. For true justice to be rendered, the court of heaven required an irrefutable, undeniable dossier of evidence. Every whispered slander, every overt act of betrayal, every hidden intention against you was meticulously recorded and cataloged. Before any divine sentence could be passed, before the scales of justice could tip decisively, a comprehensive body of evidence had to be assembled. The universe operates on principles of divine law, and just as an earthly court requires irrefutable proof, so too society does the celestial tribunal. This wasn't a matter of an arbitrary punishment. It was a righteous judgment based on indisputable facts. Every tear you shed, every moment of confusion, every instance of unjust suffering was not lost or overlooked. Instead, each became a vital piece of testimony, a silent accusation against your adversaries. Divine scribes diligently recorded their actions, their motives, and the impact of their malevolence upon your life. The court of heaven patiently observed, allowing the full measure of their transgressions to manifest, ensuring that when the verdict was finally delivered, it would be undeniably just and perfectly aligned with their deeds. This patient accumulation ensured that when the trap finally sprung, it was not merely a consequence of divine wrath, but the perfectly calibrated outcome of their own accumulated choices and actions, leaving no room for appeal or mercy. Indeed, the very fabric of your past season, the trials you endured, and the patience you exhibited were all instrumental in constructing this divine case. Every single day of your struggle, every challenge you faced with fortitude contributed directly to the voluminous file against your accusers. Consider then the profound significance of your journey every day. You endured every moment you stood firm against the tide of opposition was not merely a personal struggle, but a critical addition to their impending verdict. Each act of resilience on your part, each instance where you chose faith over fear, forgiveness over bitterness, or hope over despair, served as another page, another chapter in the celestial indictment against those who sought your downfall. Your suffering was not in vain. It was a potent form of silent witness, a compelling narrative of injustice that resonated through the spiritual realms. The very pressure they exerted upon you inadvertently helped to document their own guilt, sealing their fate with the weight of their own actions. Think of it as a divine legal process where your consistent endurance under fire provided the definitive proof of their malice and the purity of your spirit. The deeper their machinations, the more intricate their web of deceit, the more extensively their wrongdoings were recorded, creating an unassailable record that left no stone unturned, guaranteeing that their eventual judgment would be not only swift, but profoundly just and undeniable in its scope. While the universe was busily collecting evidence, your own spirit was undergoing a profound and necessary transformation. The past season, though marked by intense pressure and tribulation, was far from punitive. It was a divinely designed crucible, a spiritual furnace meticulously crafted for your ultimate strengthening. The relentless heat and unyielding pressure of the recent season, which at times felt unbearable, was not meant to break you, but to forge you. This was your divine training ground, a spiritual furnace where every impurity was burned away, every weakness exposed and transmuted into strength. Within this intense crucible, your spiritual immune system was not merely refined, it was developed to an omega level. This signifies an unparalleled resilience, an inherent capacity to withstand and overcome any spiritual, emotional, or energetic assault that might come your way in the future. Just as gold is purified through fire, shedding its dross to reveal its true brilliance, you emerge from this furnace with a spiritual fortitude that is virtually unassailable. You now possess an innate, powerful defense mechanism against negativity, manipulation, and the lower vibrations of the world. This immune system doesn't just resist, it transforms, it deflects, and it transcends. It ensures that future attempts to drain your energy or disrupt your peace will be met with an unyielding spiritual integrity, a purity of purpose and power that was cultivated specifically in the fires of your past trials, preparing you for a destiny of profound impact and unshakable peace. This profound process of divine judgment and personal transformation echoes ancient wisdom, reminding us of God's sovereign patience and purpose, even amidst human wickedness. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Romans, articulated this divine perspective with piercing clarity, providing comfort and understanding for those who endure. The scripture from Romans chapter 9, verse 22 provides a profound theological lens through which to view the very season you have just navigated. What if God, desiring to show his wrath and to make known his power, has endured with much patience vessels of wrath prepared for destruction? This verse speaks to the enduring patience of the divine, patiently tolerating those who through their own choices have become instruments of chaos and destruction. It implies that there is a divine purpose in allowing certain situations to unfold, in permitting the full measure of wickedness to manifest not for arbitrary reasons, but to ultimately reveal the boundless power and unyielding justice of God. Your journey then has been a living testament to this very principle. God endured with extraordinary patience the actions of those who sought to harm you, not because he was unaware or powerless, but because he was orchestrating a grander revelation of his might. Their preparation for destruction was a path they chose through their persistent malevolence, and God, in his sovereignty, permitted it to reach its zenith precisely so that his ultimate intervention and the subsequent restoration in your life would serve as an undeniable, awe-inspiring demonstration of his limitless power, justice, and unwavering commitment to his chosen ones. It is a powerful affirmation that even in the darkest moments, God's hand is sovereign, working all things together for a majestic display of His glory and your ultimate triumph. As the divine gears of justice turn, revealing God's awesome power and unfathomable patience, a crucial directive emerges for you, the one who has weathered the storm. It is a profound instruction whispered from the heart of divine wisdom: do not intervene. When you witness the intricate, self-destructive unraveling of those who once sought your harm, when their carefully constructed edifices of deceit begin to crumble from within, your sacred task is one of profound stillness. Do not lift a finger, do not offer a word of warning, and certainly do not attempt to mitigate their inevitable trajectory. This is not a moment for human interference, for the path they are now on is one they forged themselves, and its conclusion is a divine decree. Your journey through the furnace has prepared you not just for triumph, but for the discernment to know when to step back and allow the sovereign hand of the Most High to complete its perfect work. Any attempt to meddle, to help, or to warn would be to disrupt a sacred process, to inadvertently step into a vortex of judgment that is not meant for you. The crushing effect is not merely metaphorical. It is a spiritual reality, a force of divine consequence that must be permitted to run its full course without the slightest human alteration or compassion, for their preparation for destruction has reached its appointed time. This brings us to a fundamental spiritual truth that liberates. The soul judgment is the exclusive work of God, not yours. It is a sacred mantle too heavy for any human hand to bear. And when we attempt to grasp it, we not only overstep our bounds, but also invite unnecessary burdens and complexities into our own lives. Your role in this divine drama was to endure, to trust, and to maintain your integrity amidst adversity. And now, as the scales of justice tip, your continued trust is paramount. Releasing the need to see, to understand, or to participate in the dismantling of your adversaries is a powerful act of surrender, a profound affirmation of your faith in a God who sees all, knows all, and repays all. Imagine the universe as a magnificent clockwork. Each gear, each spring moves with divine precision. To interfere with the judgment process would be akin to tampering with this intricate mechanism, believing you could improve upon the Creator's design. This is not about revenge or vindictiveness on your part. It is about recognizing divine sovereignty and allowing the spiritual laws of sowing and reaping to operate unimpeded. By entrusting judgment to God, you cleanse your own spirit of bitterness and resentment, ensuring that your heart remains a vessel for light and grace, unpolluted by the shadows of another's downfall. This delegation of justice is not passive. It is an active choice to align yourself with divine order, securing your own peace and future blessings. Just as a colossal building weakened to its core begins its inevitable collapse, creating a tempest of dust, debris, and unforeseen dangers, so too does the spiritual edifice of those prepared for destruction generate an unseen fallout. Therefore, that a vital instruction for your preservation is to keep a significant distance. This is not merely a physical separation, though that is often a necessary component, but a spiritual and energetic boundary. When a structure of falsehood and malevolence implodes, it releases a powerful chaotic energy, a dust cloud of negative frequencies, residual curses, and the frantic, destructive reactions of those caught within. To remain too close either physically, emotionally, or spiritually, is to risk being caught in the collateral damage, to inhale the toxic spiritual debris that can cling to your aura cloud, your newfound clarity, or even attempt to pull you back into the very drama you have been divinely liberated from. Envision yourself as standing on firm, elevated ground, watching from afar as the old structures of oppression disintegrate. The dust may rise, the echoes may reverberate, but you are not in the blast radius. This distance is a shield, a protective measure ordained by heaven to safeguard your restoration and ensure that no lingering shadow or fragment of their disaster can touch the purity of your new beginning. It is a sacred space carved out for your healing and ascent. Building upon the principle of maintaining a safe distance, the practical application often necessitates decisive action, block, unfriend, and sever all connections. This isn't merely about digital hygiene. It's a profound act of spiritual and energetic severance that prevents any further contamination or attempts to re-engage you. In an interconnected world, digital ties, whether on social media, via email, or even through shared contacts, can serve as invisible conduits, allowing the chaotic energy of their collapse to seep back into your sacred space. They may, in their panic and desperation, attempt to reach out to blame, to manipulate, or even to try and draw you back into their downward spiral. By blocking every avenue of communication, you are not acting out of malice, but out of a deep self-love and an understanding of spiritual boundaries. This act cuts the threads, ensuring that the dust and debris of their implosion cannot find its way into your sanctuary. Imagine each connection as a tiny rope. Even if you are far away, these ropes can still transmit vibrations, pulls, and the desperate cries of those entangled. To truly be free, you must cut every single one. This radical act of disconnection is a declaration to the universe that you are unequivocally moving forward, that your past is sealed, and that your energy is now solely dedicated to your healing growth and the abundant opportunities that are unfurling before you. It is a necessary surgical procedure to prevent infection and guarantee the full recovery of your spirit. As you witness the unfolding of divine justice, it is paramount to engage in rigorous mental hygiene, actively guarding your thoughts and emotions. This means a deliberate and compassionate refusal to gloat or rejoice over their pain. While a sense of relief and vindication is natural, allowing your heart to harbor ill will or to revel in their suffering can subtly yet powerfully diminish the blessings that are now flowing into your life. The universe operates on energetic principles, and aligning yourself with joy and gratitude rather than the lower vibration of schadenfreude ensures that your frequency remains high and clear. Consider your heart a pristine garden. Just as you wouldn't plant weeds of bitterness or resentment, you also wouldn't cultivate the poisonous bloom of gloating. Such emotions, while tempting in moments of triumph, can create energetic blockages, hindering the full manifestation of the abundance and peace that are rightfully yours. Your focus should remain steadfastly on your own healing, your own growth, and the incredible new path that has opened before you. This is a moment for spiritual maturity, for transcending the human inclination towards an eye for an eye, and instead embodying the higher virtues of grace and compassion, even for those who showed you none. By maintaining a pure heart, unburdened by the negativity of their downfall, you preserve your internal sanctuary, ensuring that your newfound freedom and blessings are unadulterated and deeply, profoundly rooted in love and light. This practice is not for their benefit, but entirely for yours, securing your spiritual well-being and paving the way for even greater spiritual elevation. Yet maintaining a pure heart and preserving your internal sanctuary often requires more than just a mental decision. It necessitates a proactive spiritual disentanglement. For true liberation from the aftermath of their collapse, it is crucial to recognize and actively sever every spiritual umbilical cord that may still subtly or overtly connect you to their unfolding disaster. These cords are not physical, but energetic pathways forged through prolonged interaction, emotional entanglement, and shared karmic experiences. They can manifest as residual anger, lingering fear, or even a subconscious preoccupation with their fate continuing to siphon your vital energy and keep you tethered to their lower vibrational state. Declaring the severing of these cords is a powerful, intentional act of spiritual surgery. It is a resolute statement to the universe that you are reclaiming every fragmented piece of your soul, every jewel of your life force that was inadvertently or forcibly invested in their drama. This declaration breaks the invisible chains, ensuring that their self-destruction, their panic, and their ongoing karmic fallout cannot remotely influence your peace or prosperity. This cleansing allows your energy field to operate at its highest vibration, unburdened and entirely dedicated to your divinely appointed path. With the severing of these energetic tethers, an immense and profound shift occurs within your being. The energy that was once subtly or overtly siphoned away, expended in defending your spirit, navigating their chaos, or simply existing under the oppressive weight of their malevolence, is now miraculously reclaimed and released back into your own sovereign reservoir. This is not merely an absence of struggle. It is a profound presence of untapped potential, a vast wellspring of vitality and creative force that has been lying dormant awaiting this moment of liberation. Now, the divine mandate is to focus this newly released energy with laser precision to build your own empire. This isn't about material acquisition alone, but about cultivating the kingdom within your spiritual fortitude, your creative genius, your personal well-being, and the tangible manifestations of your highest dreams. Channel every ounce of this reclaimed power into constructing a life that is a testament to your resilience, your vision, and your divine purpose. Let the efforts that once went into survival now fuel thriving, turning the lessons of your past into the building blocks of an unshakable future, a sanctuary of peace and abundance that is uniquely yours, forged from the crucible of your journey. This season of liberation calls for not just focused effort, but a profound acceleration, an invitation to work and create twice as much as before. This call for double effort is not a return to frenetic struggle, but a joyous and inspired channeling of your newfound freedom and immense energy. Imagine the mental bandwidth, the emotional resilience, and the sheer spiritual vitality that was previously consumed by navigating the complexities of their attacks, defending your spirit, and enduring the insidious drain on your being. All of that precious resource is now returned to you, multiplied by the very act of your deliverance. This is the moment to seize the extraordinary opportunities that are now unfolding with unparalleled vigor and dedication. Dive deeper into your passions, innovate with unwavering clarity, and execute your visions with a renewed sense of purpose and power. This intensified output is not about exhaustion. It is about inspired productivity, a creative outpouring that reflects the unburdened spirit within you. It is about making up for lost time, not with regret, but with a powerful, forward-moving momentum, solidifying the foundations of your future and manifesting the abundant life you were always meant to live, now unhindered and profoundly blessed. As you immerse yourself in this profound period of accelerated creation and intentional rebuilding, an equally powerful yet often counterintuitive spiritual discipline emerges as paramount: the sacred act of holding your tongue. While the temptation might arise to recount the story of their downfall, to share the details of their unraveling, or to seek validation in their public exposure, resist this impulse with unwavering spiritual resolve. Speaking about their collapse, even with a sense of justified vindication, can inadvertently reestablish an energetic link, pulling you back into the very narrative and lower vibration you have so diligently worked to transcend. Your victory is not in their public shaming, but in your private peace and burgeoning success. Your silence becomes a powerful, almost mystical shield, preserving your high frequency and denying them any further mental or emotional real estate in your consciousness. It is a profound act of self-preservation, protecting your sacred energy from any residual debris or subtle entanglement. Let the universe and their own deeds speak for themselves. Your focus is now entirely inward on the glorious unfolding of your own path, untainted by the echoes of a past that no longer has any claim on your radiant future. As you firmly establish this inward focus, remember that your deliberate silence is not an absence of power, but a profound expression of it. In a world accustomed to reactivity and clamor, your quietude becomes a disorienting force. This intentional lack of response paradoxically speaks volumes, creating an unnerving void that the orchestrators of your past distress cannot comprehend. Your refusal to engage, to react, or even to acknowledge their current plight strips them of the very fuel they once thrived on: your emotional energy and attention. They expected a spectacle, a public declaration, or at the very least, a private satisfaction expressed in words confirming their impact. Instead, they are met with a disconcerting void, a serene detachment that denies them the satisfaction of their perceived victory and amplifies the sting of their own unraveling. This silence is a potent form of spiritual warfare, a psychological chess move that leaves them without a clear adversary to target or a predictable reaction to exploit. In their confusion, their minds will race, constructing scenarios, blaming each other, and amplifying their internal chaos. They will search for answers in your stillness, only to find an impenetrable wall of peace that reflects their own disarray back at them. It's a silence that screams divine judgment, a quiet assurance that their chapter in your story has not only closed, but has been sealed away, leaving them to grapple with the profound, unsettling echo of their own destructive deeds. This is not indifference. It is divine strategy, a testament to your ascended state where their drama no longer registers on your frequency. Chosen one, remember this. As you leave this video today, you do not need to look back at the dark doors that were opened against you, for they are no longer a threat, but have become the very gravity pulling down those who open them. You do not win because you were stronger in the fight, but because you stood firm in the light while the darkness collapsed on its own. You do not need to prove anything, retaliate, or have the last word, as the silence and peace you hold are the clearest signs that the battle has turned. Walk forward with your head held high, yet with a humble heart. Do not touch what is crumbling, and do not let that collapse pull you back. Your path ahead does not lead through the ruins of others, but upward to a new level, where the doors that open no longer carry the scent of darkness. If this message has touched you, leave a simple sign in the comments, such as "I stand firm" or "Amen." Not as a declaration, but as confirmation that you have heard, understood, and are ready to move forward. If you wish to continue receiving messages meant specifically for those who were not born to fall, please like and subscribe to Journey with Us. Remember, the dark doors that were once opened to harm you have now become the walls that bury those who open them, and you are called to keep walking.